Thank you, Presiding Officer. I'm very pleased to be called to this debate this afternoon. Scotland is simply one of the most exciting places to be in the world this year. As someone who has enjoyed the Y-Dance Youth Festival during the Commonwealth Games, George R.R. Martin only this week at the Book Festival, I have to pay tribute, as others already have done, to the tremendous work that has been done across Scotland to make 2014 one of the most exciting and successful in Scotland's festival's history. I was very lucky to be an observer at the second International Culture Summit held in this Parliament at the weekend and over the Monday of this week. It was an incredibly interesting and informative summit attended by over 20 countries from across the globe. And they examined some of the cultural challenges facing us. It was brought together by this Parliament, by the UK and Scottish governments, with support from the British Council, and perhaps a very fitting swan song from Jonathan Mills, who was also part of the steering group of the Culture Summit. There were some very compelling and interesting presentations at it, and also it examined some key themes of advocacy and identity in culture, cities and cultures, and quite controversially, of course, values and measurements of culture. Jordi Savall performed with a collective of international medieval musicians and then spoke about how his music had informed his piecework across the world. Ia Sola, a choreographer, French-Vietnamese choreographer, talked of how her work in Vietnam had helped to heal the elderly population and help them deal with some of the traumatic experience that they had had in their lifetimes. But perhaps one of the most compelling was from Nandi Mandela, who talked about cultural identity and a source for positive change in the global environment. And as she spoke the words of her grandfather, it had a great profound impact on me listening about how important cultural identity is in nation shaping and our understanding of one another. One of the Polish delegates summed up the measuring and values part of it as saying, "Not everything that can be measured counts, and not everything that counts can be measured." I think our own Cabinet Secretary summed this up in the Talbot Rice lecture from last year. We can't discuss the economic benefits of culture without also acknowledging the contribution that our cultural work makes to help build long-term relationships and trusts overseas. As a country, we continue to punch it well above our weight internationally, using heritage, culture and creativity to attract other nationals to live, work, study, travel and do business in Scotland, all of which contributes to growth. Culture helps support engagement with the priority countries and regions identified in the government's international framework, and we have some good stories to tell. Presiding Officer, I hope to enlighten the Chamber this afternoon with a good story from this very Parliament this afternoon. We had a compelling debate yesterday about Gaza, led with a very moving opening speech by Drew Smith. And in all the debates we had then, and in all the debates over the term of the International Culture Summit, in all those deliberations, I think in a small few minutes of sublime singing in this Parliament this afternoon, it all came together and could have been summed up by the performance in the Robert Burns Room. We had the absolute delight of listening to one of the most emotionally powerful shows at the Fringe, courtesy of the DeLoco High School Choir, who have come from Umlaza Township in South Africa. This 30-strong choir of incredibly talented young people who sang and danced for us are all the more remarkable because they hail from a desperately poor township outside Durban, in an area where violence and sexual crimes are all too commonplace. They are having their international debut at Edinburgh's festival. And this was funded by an online campaign crowdsourcing from the Scottish charity Iris Initiative. It was very fitting that in the Robert Burns Room, the man who penned the words, "A man's a man, the world over, should brothers be for all that," they performed this afternoon included in the repertoire a stunningly beautiful tribute to Nelson Mandela. And one young man stepped forward to speak the words of what their beloved Mandiba means to them. And in doing so, and without blame or accusation, and despite their own struggles and their own experiences of life, they express solidarity with the people of Palestine. The choir were accompanied by Mr. Wallace, a retired teacher from Edinburgh, who has been involved in the Jubilani project for 8 years. And they have taken a Scottish award, the John Byrne Award, a prize aimed at young people in Edinburgh, out to Durban, and they have been using it to work with schools out in Durban. It's an incredibly important prize because it involves young people in expressing their reactions to other works of culture. And Jubilani, just as in Edinburgh, the aim in South Africa, is to stimulate discussion of values and ethics. What a wonderful example of cultural exchange, cultural understanding, and what these festivals can mean to a world where we could understand one another's cultures and, in doing so, become a more peaceful and prosperous world.